Hi guys, Andy here. I've been using the Nokia Lumia 930 provided by Microsoft for a week and a half now. I've tried to use it solely as my daily phone, my daily driver, and generally I have. Every now and then there's something I'm doing that I need apps that are only on Android, that I've only got on my phones, or that kind of have an account with information that I need to be able to access or use, so I've had to use the other device. But generally, you know, I've been to work, I've been to various different events, and I've taken this device with me just on its own, nothing else. And on the whole, I've got on fine. On the whole, the actual hardware I would say is pretty good, but and this video is just about the phone, it's just about this hardware, it's not going to be about Windows. I'll be doing another video about Windows very shortly, about the 8.1 version. So go and watch that to see about the operating system. This is just about the hardware itself. So let's crack on and take a look at what I think of the phone. So let's start with the design. Generally it's quite a blocky device, it's quite chunky, it's quite squared. I mean it is tapered a bit towards the edges, if you can see that. I don't know how well that shows. Rounded off to the edges, which means it does feel good in the hand, but at 9.8mm thick and 167 grams, it just feels quite a large device. Even my Note 3 is only 168 grams, 1 gram more, and that's 8.3mm thick, so like almost well, 1.5mm thinner basically. The buttons are nice, they're sort of nice and protruding and solid and definite. You know, you're never under any illusion of whether you've pressed the button or not. Although, as with the other device, the Nokia that I reviewed, the 1520, I don't particularly like the buttons all down one side. So for example, putting it into my universal phone holder, I've got to be very careful that the grips go either side of the power and the camera. Quite often I thought I had, and then all of a sudden the camera comes on. So that's, you know, for me that's a bit of a downside that they're all there. You know, even if they'd moved the volume rocker a bit higher, the camera a bit, you know, give more space in the middle. Having said that, it's very well positioned, the power for turning the device on and the volume for use with your thumb. The shutter, obviously, again, I think that would have been better off a bit nearer the edge, but not that it's a problem necessarily. So, and personally, I think more phones should have the designated camera button, so I do very much a strong point there. As far as the hardware itself, the chipset it runs is the Snapdragon 800, which really is, it's a little dated for a top-end device. You know, a year ago the top-end device was coming out with 800. The device is from 2 or 3 months ago with the 801, and the new devices are the 805. But how much that really affects it, that's anyone's shout. It certainly performed well enough in the benchmarks. Have a look at me putting the Lumia 930 up against the Galaxy S5. So I guess I shouldn't moan that the CPU, for example, is the Crate 400 at 2.2 GHz. So it's quad core, only 2.2, but again, you wouldn't know, as long as the device performs well enough, shouldn't really moan, I guess. The Adreno 330 means that it's more than happy playing games. So we can see here, I've actually no idea what I'm doing in Angry Birds Epic, but I don't know what any of this is. I've won some shells, is that good? Weapons, increase a bird's attack power. All I'm really trying to show you is that it performs perfectly well. So just get me in there to do something, please. So although it's not the strongest of hardware lineups, as you can see, perfectly smooth. While we're here, the screen, I think the screen is pretty fantastic. Look at the colours, the sharpness, the viewing angles. Again, I'm never quite sure how well the viewing angles show on my videos, but I can tell you that really is very good. So the screen, again, definitely a good strong point. Let's come back out if I can. I'm going to just close it away totally. Where was I? As in hardware. So, yeah, you might have noticed as well, it does have tap to wake, which again I think a lot more phones should have. It's a very good feature. One of the strong points for me, is the speaker. Let's see if we can
If you having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. I got the rat patrol on the cat patrol. Fools that want to make sure my casket's clean. A little bit enough that you wanna legally search my shit. We'll see how smart you are when. I'm thinking maybe I should get it out. And I don't wanna sound redundant, but I was wondering if there was something that you wanna know. But never mind that, we should let it go.
So it does only have the one single rear facing speaker. I'm not hung up on that. I know a lot of people are, but actually I think that design allows them to put a stronger, more powerful speaker in, which I'm all in favour of. So it actually set a record in my sound tests at 99 point something or other decibels when playing tunes. It does get a little distorted at the top end, but not much. And I can say that podcasts and voice, if you make voice calls, sound very good through the external speaker. While I'm on that, I hardly ever mention, and some people get annoyed that I don't, I hardly ever mention voice calls, because generally one voice call sounds much like the next on phones. But I have to say, I don't know if it was just pure luck. I don't do a lot of voice calls as well, for that matter. But I've definitely had 2 calls where I've thought to myself, wow, that is incredibly clear, really clear. I don't know if it's to do with the speaker, the earpiece in the Nokia, or just that I've been lucky in getting 2 very clear lines. But at one point I was talking to my mum on the train, and I was amazed. You're on a train? Yeah. So I can't hear anything. She just sounded so clear. So again, I don't often mention it, but it was worth mentioning because it sounded so good. Whether that's Nokia's credit or just that I was lucky or it's EE, or I don't know, but definitely, you know, I noticed how clear the voice calls sounded. It does also have NFC built in. I've not really had a need to use it at this point. I don't think there's any wallet apps or payment apps on the Nokia, well, on the Windows Store. So obviously it can be used for other things, but it does have it. Then we move to the camera. So it's a 20 megapixel Carl Zeiss Pure View with dual LED flash. The specs make me think this should be one of the best cameras I've ever used. I didn't really feel that way. In fact, if we take a look, so I did do an actual sort of stills camera comparison against the S5, and I declared the S5 a winner. Others might disagree, but I think it's just the first shot looking out into the garden. The Lumia, it just looks so. I mean, it made me wonder. I'm sure, you know, I cleaned the lens and all sorts. So I couldn't understand quite why it looked like it did. Now, it could be that it's just a software issue, and possibly, and people have said to me, "Oh yeah, there's a Windows update coming that's going to improve the camera." It looks to me like it really needs that improvement. I just was really a bit disappointed by it, if I'm very honest. When you take a picture, though, it does save in 2 different sizes as well. You get the full 20 megapixel, or you get kind of a more manageable. I think it was. Actually, I forget how many megapixels it is, but it's a more manageable kind of, I think probably somewhere between 12 and 16. Although I noticed when it backs up automatically to OneDrive, it only backs up as a 1080p. Generally that's fine. Generally you just want them to share to Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter, and 1080p photos are more than enough. As far as keeping all your photos backed up, I wouldn't be too keen. I'd want them bigger than that, if not full size, bigger than that. Notifications, nice, thank you. What else? The video as well. The video is very poor. Again, if we have a look at the comparison that I did against the S5, I was really quite surprised. It almost looks like the bitrate is just too low. Again, that may be improved in a software update. If we then talk about the front-facing camera, so this is only a 1.2 megapixel, which again is quite small, even for a front-facing. I mean, some phones are now coming out with sort of 5 meg front-facing cameras. The selfie is becoming more of a thing. I'll admit to have been, the last 2 or 3 weeks I've been quite a selfie whore myself as well. And if you can get a good camera, a good photo from the front-facing camera, almost why not? You know, we're so used to asking people, oh, would you mind taking a picture of me? Because you want a picture of yourself in front of some nice scenery or whatever it might be, or with somebody. And actually now it's become sort of acceptable to just take that selfie yourself, with you in it yourself. You know, why not? But the front-facing camera I felt really quite poor again, if I'm honest. Maybe it gets improved with software updates, because I mean some of the low-light ones I took had a weird kind of red hue around the edge. The colours didn't look right to me, and all around it just, I thought it was quite poor quality. So I was a little disappointed, and I really hope it gets improved with the Windows software update. Then if we move on to the battery, so it's a 2420 milliamp hour non-removable, obviously, because I've not really tried, I don't think the back comes off. But 2400 is pretty solid. I never really saw it below 35% as I've been using it, but then most days I would perhaps drive somewhere and I have it plugged in while I do the navigation, so it did, it would charge a bit anyway then. It also, I was sent with the phone the wireless charging pad. Obviously there's some wires, you plug in the top there, I've just not bothered for the purposes of the video, and you just sit the phone down on top and off it charges. I went from 35% up to full, or to 98 anyway, in about 2 hours. That's pretty good. That's kind of what you would expect from the mains charger. It doesn't match what some of Samsung's device, well, I think Motorola have done some sort of quick charge technology as well, where they can go kind of 50% in half an hour or even less in some cases, but that's still pretty good. That's 2 hours to charge your phone to full, definitely no problems. So all in all, yeah, the battery seemed pretty good. I think I've seen reports of some people struggling with the battery in it, but I didn't really notice that myself. Now, I've mentioned obviously the OS I will review in a separate video, so go and find that if you want to know more about the operating system. So all in all, it is a nice device. It looks nice. It's well designed. It feels a little bit chunky. I wouldn't let that put me off, to be honest. It does feel a little bit mid-range. Only in mid-range in that, like the Nexus 5 is perhaps, and the Nexus 5 I think is an amazing phone. But again, the 800 chipset, the camera quality not so great. The front-facing camera only being 1.2 and not so great. Just it doesn't scream top end that I thought perhaps it should be. Maybe it shouldn't. I don't know the Lumia range totally, so maybe 930 is. I know the 1020 is supposed to be like the best camera phone. I don't know if that's supposed to be the top end and this is the mid-range alternative. May well be, and if that's the case, that's fine. And unfortunately, I think the phone is held back slightly by the operating system. Only really in the apps, sense of the apps. So the operating system itself is, and I should show you really, it's very smooth. There's no jittery, it takes a little bit of time to open the camera. Let's just show you, where is my camera tile? There it is. So I'll tap the tile, open, and let's just take a picture as well so you see that. Oh, I should mention that's with living images. They're quite interesting. So it actually takes it almost like a video. I wonder if I've got any better, all my sample photos of things. So there'll be some in here, I think. You see that? There's a bit of movement. Oh, there should have been. There you go. It's kind of weird because there's not much. It's really a very small amount of movement. Sorry, I'm not fully in frame. But there is just that tiny bit of movement before the photo. You still take the photo off the device as a normal photo. It's not a GIF or anything like that. This was me at EGX the other day. But yeah, just kind of, it's interesting. I'm not sure how useful it is, to be honest. Totally forgot where I was. So yeah, I'm just saying about how slick the, it does. I like the movements. I like the swinging out, swinging in. It does do it very smooth. A lot of people will say that it's much smoother than Android, and to be honest, I can't really argue with that. It does depend what Android device you use. I think the Nexus 5 is very smooth, but you definitely can't floor the Lumia in its fluidity. Oops. Not quite sure why I got 5 notifications for one thing there. So when I say it's kind of restricted a little bit, limited a little bit by the OS, mainly I'm talking about the apps, and it is getting better and better. Again, to be honest, let's stop that there. If you want to know more about my thoughts on the operating system, watch the video on 8.1 that I'll be doing in the next day or two, or maybe even today. We'll see. So all in all, I like the device. If it had Android on it, would I be going out to buy it? Probably not. Just because I do prefer the Nexus 5 as this type of device, hardware-wise. But if you're a Windows fan, if you're in the Windows ecosystem, is it something that you should be considering? I would say so. And hopefully the camera gets better with the update. But let me know your thoughts. I'm sure there'll be many people defending it. I've not given it the best glowing review, perhaps, in areas. and that's going to upset some people, I'm sure. Windows fans seem to get quite defensive around the 1520. So let me know your thoughts on this one, I guess. My name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.